So, chemically, coagulant chemicals are either metallic salts such as alum or ferric chloride or polymers. Polymers are main man-made organic compounds made up of long chain of smaller molecules. Polymers can be either cationic, that is positively charged, or anionic, negatively charged, or non-ionic, that can be neutrally charged also. Okay, but in water treatment mostly we use alum and ferric sulfate, and these metallic salts can be used interchangeably, but mostly in the treatment of water we use alum. If you add alum to the water and with the help of lime, then it will result in the formation of the flogs, that is, the flog will be settled as hydroxides of aluminium along with the calcium sulfate. Similarly, if you add ferric sulfate, then the ferrous hydroxide flogs will be formed along with the precipitate of calcium sulfate. Okay, and these are the coagulants normally used in the treatment of water, that is ferrous sulfate along with lime, magnesium carbonate, polyelectrolytes, aluminum sulfate or alum. Sometimes alum is also used with potassium salt, then it is called as potash alum. Then we can also use sodium aluminate and also chlorinated copperas. The selection of the coagulant depends upon the pH of the water, the type of the impurities and the level of turbidity. So based on the characterization of the water, we can select any one type of coagulant. So let us see what is meant by this aluminum sulfate, or simply it is called as alum. Okay, so these are a variety of primary coagulant used in the treatment of water, and it was one of the earliest and still most extensively used in the treatment of water. It is chemically called as aluminum sulfate or simply alum. Okay, so alum can be brought in liquid form with a concentration of 8.3% or in dry form with a concentration of 17%. When alum is added to water, it reacts with the water and results in positively charged ions. Like I told you, the impurities in the water may have negatively charged in the water. When you add alum or any other positively charged coagulant, the charge neutralization takes place, thereby increasing the formation of flogs and also increase in the size of the flogs. Okay, it is known simply as alum or filter alum. The chemical composition of the alum is Al2SO4 thrice 18H2O, that is aluminum sulfate along with 18 molecules of water. It reacts with alkali water to form aluminum hydroxide. That is, I have shown you in the previous slide the formation of aluminum hydroxide flog when you add the alum to the water with the liberation of calcium sulfate and carbon dioxide. Calcium sulfate as precipitate or carbon dioxide as gas. The following are the chemical reactions when you add the alum to the water. Okay, so aluminum hydroxide, aluminum sulfate, that is alum, when it is mixed with sodium carbonate, then this is the first stage of reaction, that is 2AlOH3 plus 3Na2SO4 plus 18H2O plus carbon dioxide. In the next step, these compounds will be formed into the precipitation of the stable aluminum hydroxide flog and with the formation of calcium sulfate and water. And alum is commonly used due to the following reasons. That is, in addition to the turbidity suspended and other impurities, it also reduces the taste and odor of the water. It produces clear water. In other words, it is very effective type of coagulant. Flogs formed by it are more stable and heavy than flogs formed by other coagulants. and also it is not harmful to the health. Due to these reasons, the alum is extensively used in the treatment of water, and these are some of the advantages and disadvantages of alum. Alum is readily dissolves with the water, so that it becomes easy to mix the alum with the water with minimum effort, and also it does not cause any unsightly reddish brown staining of floors, walls and equipment like ferric sulfate. As you know, ferric sulfate, it will impart little brownish color to the water as it contains the iron mineral into it. Okay, so we don't have problems of this when you use alum. The disadvantage of alum is it is effective only at certain pH range. That's why good flocculation may not be possible with alum in some water. That is, the pH range is limited if you are using alum as a coagulant. Then coming to ferrous sulfate, when lime and ferrous sulfate are added to water, the ferrous hydroxide is formed in the form of flocks. So unlike the aluminum hydroxide flock here, along with the addition of lime, here we can see the formation of ferric hydroxide flock. Okay. Ferric hydroxide is a flock which settles down and removes all the colloidal impurities in the water. Okay. This is effective in pH range of 8.5 and above. That means it operates at a very broader pH range. Then next is magnesium carbonate. So unlike alum, this magnesium carbonate also removes turbidity and color. Then flocks formed are heavier than formed by other processes, thereby it reduces the retention period. It also removes iron and manganese completely, and in this case it is possible to recycle and reuse the coagulant by passing the sludge through water containing carbon dioxide as follows, which is given in the reaction. That means this magnesium carbonate can be recovered. Then polyelectrolytes. So polyelectrolytes are special type of polymers, so they may be having the positively charged, negatively charged, or sometimes the neutral charge. So these can be used independently, while other types can be used only along with a certain type of coagulants. For example, the Separam, Visprofloc, Mogul, etc. are some of the patented forms available in foreign countries. So whereas in India, the extract from seeds of a plant named Nirmali can act as polyelectrolyte, and this plant is extensively found in Andhra Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, West Bengal and Orissa. But remember, this Nirmali seed should be used as a coagulant aid. We need another chemical coagulant along with Nirmali to be effectively used as a coagulant. Similarly, we can also use sodium aluminate as a coagulant. Here you can see the sodium aluminate along with calcium sulfate. So it will form the flock of calcium aluminate and sodium sulfate. Okay, and so this is the reactions involving the sodium aluminate when used as a coagulant. The effective range of this coagulant is in between 6 to 8.5. Then we can also use chlorinated copperas. The combination of ferric sulfate and ferric chloride is called chlorinated copperas, that is FeSO4 and FeCl3. When solution of ferrous sulfate is mixed with chlorine, both ferric sulfate and ferric chlorides are produced. For example, about 1 kg chlorine reacts with 7.3 kg of ferrous sulfate. Okay. And this is the reaction of the chlorinated copperas, that is ferrous sulfate along with the chlorine, and this is the end product when you use the chlorinated copperas. Ferric sulfate and ferric chloride each is an effective flock and their combination is also very effective. Oftenly this is used as a combination than individual because the combination works effectively than individually. In this case, if it is found if it is used independently, then following is the reaction, that is ferric sulfate plus calcium hydroxide will result in the formation of calcium sulfate and ferric hydroxide. If we use ferric chloride separately, then it will be the end product will be calcium chloride and ferrous hydroxide. Ferric chloride is effective in pH range of 3.5 to 6.5 or above 8.5. Please note that for every coagulant there is an effective pH range. Unless you maintain the pH range of that water, the respective coagulants may not work effectively. And these are some of the coagulants and its advantages and disadvantages. The first one comes aluminum sulfate. It is easy to handle and apply because it readily dissolves with the water, and most commonly used, it produces less sludge than lime, and it is most effective between pH 6.5 to 8.5. Here the disadvantage is that it is effective only in a limited pH range of 6.5 to 7.5 only. Sodium aluminate is one. It is effective in the treatment of hard water and a very small dosage can be required. The disadvantage is it is often used with alum, then that's why its cost is high and it is ineffective in soft waters. And polyaluminum chloride can be used. In some application the flock formation is more and dense and faster settling than alum. So this is the advantages of polyaluminum chloride, and it is generally not commonly used little or full scale data compared to other aluminum derivatives. Ferric sulfate, that is it is effective between pH 4.6 and 8.8 up to 9.2. That is the advantage that it can be operated in broader pH range compared to alum. The disadvantage is it adds dissolved salts to water that is usually needed to add alkalinity when you are using this. Similarly, ferric chloride, it is effective in pH range of 4 and 11. Then it also adds the dissolved solids. That is the disadvantage. Similarly, ferrous sulfate, not as pH sensitive as lime, and disadvantage is it adds the dissolved salts to water. Then lime, commonly used, it is very effective, may not add salts to effluent, and disadvantage is it is pH dependent. It produces large quantities of sludge and overdose can result in poor effluent quality. So depending upon the suitability, the type of impurities, the pH range, it is careful to select the required coagulant for the effective treatment of water. Then comes coagulating aids. So coagulating aids are nothing but the inorganic material. So it is like a catalyst which will increase the process of flock formation in coagulation process. Okay. So coagulant aids, as the name itself suggests, it just increases the rate of coagulation process. This helps in increasing the density of slow settling flocks and toughness to the flocks so that they will not break up during mixing and settling process. If they break up, the gravity of those settling particles reduces, so thereby the job of these coagulating aids is to keep the settling solids intact and prevent the breaking. Okay, so these are some of the commonly used coagulating aids used in the treatment of water, that is bentonite, calcium carbonate, sodium silicate, anionic polymer and non-ionic polymer. Okay, so in this class we have studied about the coagulation, flocculation, the mechanism, formation of double layer, the settlement of the particles, then different types of coagulants and these operations. I hope you have understood the process of coagulation, flocculation and sedimentation. In the next class, we'll talk about the different feeding devices and the clariflocculator. Okay, so thank you for your time. We'll see in the next class.